Greetings, everyone, and welcome to Journey of a Healed Success Stepper. This is episode number 10, and we're going to talk a little bit about how to gain the balance to your life when you have to keep moving forward. So you've made a mistake. You've caught a case, like in my situation. You've caught a case, and you don't know how this thing is going to turn out. You have no idea. So in the midst of dealing with the situation, you're saying to yourself, I got to get back to work. Either I'm going to go and apply for employment or I'm going to believe in myself. So for me, in my situation, I was blessed enough to have a LLC, and I had put on that account in 2010. I had just aligned it. So in 2011, I wasn't even a new entrepreneur for a year. So in 2011, I had to come back home and I had to become a self-starter. I had to really invent myself. So my company then became exclusively my employer. Once that happened, I had to gain the confidence that I yet did not have because of what had already happened. It was so new, right? So basically, what I decided to do was to motivate myself. I had to start off motivating myself, and I had to brand my business. I had to be successful, and I had to do a business startup that was already started. It was already, LLC'd and what have you. But then I had to have a positive thinking perspective about who I was at that point. And again, remember, in the physical vibration, I'm just a basic everyday person who had all this education, who had all this credentials, who had all these degrees, and who had the self-confidence from a position that, I'm good, I can do this. I can go through life doing this, skipping to the loo, eating lollipops, right? But now I'm in a different position. I'm in a position where I have to make it or lose out. I have to make something of myself. So those positive thoughts, those affirmations, those, Dorina, you can do it. Those concepts of personal meditation, those concepts of making sure that I was on the right path because I had lost faith in my decision making because my decision making landed me where I was at, right? So with the consultation services that I received at that moment, it genuinely helped me to see the value in who I was, that I was not my mistake. I was just the representative that had to carry on the physical ailments of what being basic in today's world was producing. Okay, so it was producing sheep. It was producing, people with no vision. It was producing, that vibration that I wasn't trying to get. But through prayer, meditation, supplication, fasting, knowing that everything was going to be okay, the low vibrational being individual within me started to recognize that I was self-motivating. I was becoming my own consultant to my entity. Remember, we talked about what Chameleon said. The very first business that you are granted with at birth is you. You are your first business. So what happens is Spirit begins to teach me certain attributes of who I am. And it all boils down to knowing who you are, resonating with the positive affirmations and accepting and claiming what is yours. Something that can't be taken down here because nobody understands how to take it. The only thing they can do is put you in a headspace that says, oh, you don't know who you are because remember you came down here and you made a mistake. And that mistake landed you into some devastating positions. This is the success steppers game of the goal in this game of life is to realize that this is the enemy's play. Okay? When you're grieving, when you're finding yourself going through, first response of seeing that your life did not turn out the way that you thought it should have or you thought it would have, had you walked that path the way you did. We're not talking about a person who's down here faking it. We're talking about a person who's genuinely going through all of the bullying, life scenarios, and narcissistic behaviors that are subliminally woven into the fabric of our environment. So now, as you have the God source telling you there is future choices, you have future options, and these options are going to help you decide what way is best for you. You also have to look at the way that you persevered. So I was asked the question, how did I know to come back and do my business? And because it was where I left off, okay? Just like finishing up college was where I left off before the criminal case took place. The criminal case that involved involuntary inducement that created intoxication that was totally unaware. It was a lacing. And, someone asked the question, well, define lacing. Lacing is anything that is, any ingredient that is put in something that is already substanced. So marijuana, already substance. It's a natural substance. It's going to alter your reality. It's going to alter your personality, right? But if someone induces it with something else like poison, like chemicals, like, whatever, psychological, psychotropic grindings of whatever, that is going to alter exactly what it's going to do. And it's just going to throw you into a box with, like a Jack in a Box. Remember the prize? It's never the same. But not Jack in a Box, Cracker Jacks. Cracker Jacks would have their own little prize, and you never know which one you would get. So that's exactly what a lacing does. It does the same thing, except for it's just not fun. Some people, become mentally ill for the rest of their lives. Some people become emotionally traumatized for the rest of their lives. Some people, have these gaps like I do. Sometimes I can tell that there is gaps where I want to speak certain things and all of a sudden I forget a word or here and there, but that's not hard to, come back to. I just have to be very mindful of that. But then you have people who have been unalived from the traumatic joke from this game that has been played in America called lacing. And so that's why, we have P. Diddy, R. Kelly, we have certain people who have been, Bill Cosby, who have been incarcerated for the specific processes of the controlling aspects. And in that, not R. Kelly per se, but in that, a few of those names have something to do with lacing. So that's what we're talking about today. Well, anyway, future expectation is very important. And let me see here. Your second wind, you get your second wind. When you realize that you have the God source of your understanding helping, supporting, protecting, and never leaving you, you then have the ability to say, God got me. I'm going to just success step into this thing and I'm going to do it just like any other any other thing in life. I'm going to project and I'm going to move forward into the awareness of who I'm trying to be for my future. There's no future in this fronting. So when you talk to your counselors, you have to tell them what you're really and genuinely experiencing, but then you also have to be very cautious because people can be in a position of power and they can control the narrative. But I was blessed to have a wonderful counselor. His name was Mario. And Mario helped me see the game of life and piece it all together. And it was a journey. It was a lonesome journey because when I came back home after being manipulated, after being treated so harshly by my neighbor, I realized that the low vibrational frequency of everything down here put me back into the basic status of who I was not trying to be. I wasn't trying to be basic. And anyone who is looking at their lives and elevating to the degree of wanting to change their circumstance, they're not trying to be the basic average person. Not saying that we're trying to be better than anyone. There is no competition. So who is it to be better than? It's just that when you realize that you are here for a mission, you're here on a purpose, you have to fulfill that purpose, and time waits for no man. Time waits for no one. So if you have a goal, if you have a desire, if you have something in your heart space that says that you need to do this, that, or whatever to pursue your goal, your game of life, you can do it in a productive and pleasant and positive way. And you call forth that energy to help inspire you and become exactly the client you want to work with, exactly the doctor you want to, possess in your life. I'm not saying to fake and say that you're something you're not, because that's not good. But when you know what you've experienced and you know what you've gone through and you know that you have completed the tasks, no one can tell you anything else. So I just wanted to share that process of how I got back out into the game of life, and as a low vibrational being with the entity that let me know that I must start my motivation alone, and I had to do it on a lower vibrational frequency without my mom calling, giving me that accolade, without my family who had passed on. They were my biggest cheerleaders in all my life. And to not have them to respond back to and flip back what was going on. Because see, my mother, I could have called her and she would have been like, "Oh, you're smoking a cigarette, huh?" I'm like, "How you know?" It's like she just knew me. She knew me verbatim. And it was like, also, she would tell me when I would, even as an adult, when I would go out to the club as a grown woman, the next morning, like it would be Saturday night or whatever, and then Sunday morning she's calling, "Oh, I know you're not going to church today because I heard you were out partying last night." I'm like, "How? Who called? Who called you and told you?" And it was just that. So when you have that closeness, it is kind of a win-lose. You do enjoy it while it's here, but you really miss it when it's gone. So to be that self-motivator and begin to heal yourself and know that your ancestors are riding with you, even in the spiritual realm, you have to call them for who they are. You have to say, "Mary, I know that you're still with me. I understand that you are very, very active in my life. It's just that the physical has to separate that reality. And so that's something deep we'll get into another day. But yeah, that's how we create the self-motivator and the self-starter to get back in the game after you've been knocked down by a bully, whether it is in a domestic violence situation, whether it is, in my case, a criminal situation, whether it is in a loss of a job, whether it is believing in you. And Dr. Dorina Shine is now my employer because I've invested in Dr. Dorina Shine for the majority of my life. And so now you can find us on Facebook as Dr. Dorina Shine, also Dorina Saunders, TikTok Dr. Dorina Shine, and Instagram Dr. Dorina Shine, Lemonade Dr. Dorina Shine. And I am just really, really grateful. My information is on all those platforms. So I also have privatized programming that I do my coursework with. And these are bits and pieces of what the coursework looks like. And working one-on-one as well. So if you're interested, just DM me or put it in the comment box on any of these tutorial videos, okay? Well, this is what I have to say today. I thank you and appreciate you for rocking with this episode number 10. And yeah, so if you have any questions about how my journey emerged and where I was at, like today when I thought about it, I teared up like it was just yesterday, because I felt like I had learned so much in that amount of time. The emotion of having lost all my loved individuals who were my matriarchs and patriarch way well into the game at the age of 4. All of those things, they play psychological damage and trauma to the mindset. So you have to have a self-motivating option in the process in order to persevere. Because other than that, life is going to drag and drug you all the way down. And these bullies don't care whether you make it or if you excel to the healed individual to receive your heaven on earth. So God bless you. We love you, and we'll talk to you soon.